Hi, welcome to Thunderhawke Coaching. Today we're going to talk about the power of presence. I don't know if you guys think about this a lot, but I certainly do. What is presence, right? We throw that word around a lot. I think it's a word we mostly know, but my definition for being present is being locked in the here and now, right? And something as a coach that I see a lot with many thousands of hours of experience at this point is that people really struggle with being present. It's something that seems to be less and less common in the world we live in. With more distractions than ever, there's so much pulling us away from being present. And today I wanted to talk about why being present is actually really powerful in relationships, but also for yourself. So when I talk about that, what do I mean powerful? So being present is in my opinion the healthiest kind of and most content and fulfilling state we can be in. This is something that I really think about when somebody can be content that they're on the right track, right? Stuff internally is more aligned in the right direction. Something I see a lot when I'm thinking about how to help people be more present is what is pulling you away from now? What can't you accept about now? What thoughts and feelings are coming up about later, tomorrow, the past? What is happening for you, right? And I think something that's really important here when we think about presence is what are the conflicts? What are the internal conflicts? Because when we can look at those and acknowledge them in a detailed way, and something I really notice is that it's actually really alien for most of us to sit and acknowledge where different parts of us are pointing and where we're kind of going, right? When we look at that stuff, something I notice is that everything kind of starts aligning a bit more, right? And then when we're aligned, we can be present. So how do we do this, right? First of all, talking about how you feel, being open to exploring is super important. But there's a really common hurdle I want you all to be aware of. When we think about looking at emotions and thoughts and feelings that are very past or future orientated, or you might have a specific wound that's pointing you in a certain direction, we can all, a lot of us anyway, can more comfortably look at these wounds from a logical point of view. So when I think about this, I think of the story, right? The story that we tell ourselves when there's been a wound in our life. Oh, so, a wound that I've had personally is I was historically very overweight, and I was bullied a lot as a kid, right? So a wound for me is certain kind of comments. Sometimes I can emotionally respond to those. Historically, not so much now. I've done a lot of work on it, but I can register those as kind of going back into that part of myself that's kind of in that kid state that's being bullied, right? So that pulls me out of the moment. That makes me not present. So what do we do with something like that, right? So I think what we do is we build a relationship with that part of ourselves and try and understand that part of ourselves. For me, I know that was me trying to understand and protect myself, understand the situation and go, oh, this guy's taking the piss out of me, making a joke out of me. I'm gonna pull back. I'm gonna retreat. I'm not gonna give them a reaction, okay? And that wound is pulling me away from being present in different relationships. That's a historic response that's keeping me in a historic state, right? That's not necessarily helpful when we think about how present we want to be in our relationships now, right? It's super normal for us all to be activated by certain stuff. Often it's so hard to spot ourselves, so I recommend you work with somebody. And at Thunderhawke Coaching, we can support you with that. But you can do this with yourself if you want to journal. Journaling is something I would really recommend. Look at the thoughts specifically that happen in your head, even the most innocuous ones. Those are the most important ones that don't really feel like anything. So like when you do this initially, like a lot of your guards are going to be up, right? You're going to be like, well, I know this anyway. I looked at this 100 times. But something I really notice is when we slow down. So stories typically quite quick, right? But when we can slow down, then we start feeling a bit more. Okay. Often we all feel we need kind of permission to do that. It's something I've noticed in my experience, and that's why doing it with somebody else is really important. But you can get a lot of mileage out of journaling and walking and whatnot. There's a lot of really great neuroscience to say that walking can really improve your ability to be present, because it's a consistent action, right? Especially for ADHD people who can certainly tolerate the outside environment. Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't, but if they can, it can be really grounding to have that regular kind of pressure and stimulation to keep them physically grounded, but also for neurotypical people. So I'd encourage you to explore that. But when we slow down from the story and we start feeling the emotions associated with the wounds, that's when we can really start kind of excavating this moat we've built around ourselves and reconstruct it into something that serves us now. Because is this serving us now? It's a question I want you to ask yourself, right? Are these wounds that you're carrying around, the adaptations to the wounds, are they serving you? Is the logic serving you? Is going past that serving you? And you might feel like I certainly have historically, like, when is this going to end, right? Am I going to feel this forever? No, you're not going to feel this forever, not to this intensity. And I can certainly help you out with that. But something we need to be aware of is with the wounds we have, the more we look away from them, the harder they are to engage with and actually process, right? So every time we feel something come up and we avoid it and we push it away, that's okay sometimes. Sometimes life's hard. Sometimes we just have to kind of move forward however we can move forward. But if we don't drain that pressure that builds up, it becomes so overwhelming that we can't even look at it. And then you might feel trapped, you might feel overwhelmed, you might feel lost. And this is so common with a lot of people I see. So something I would really encourage you to do is be bored. There's so much great science on being bored. Being bored is going to be really hard for you if you're not used to that. If you're used to being just logical, and there's a balance, logic is good, emotions are good. These are all parts that want to work with you and exist to serve you. But if we can get all of this stuff aligned, then we can be present. And guess what happens when you can be present? Studies show that relationships improve immensely, okay? A lot of the relationship epidemic I feel that we're in right now, romantically, friend-wise, I'm sure you've seen studies like I have that, 1 in 4 Americans don't have a best friend or have no friends at all. And, that's really sad. There's really kind of an epidemic of disconnect. And in my opinion, a big part of that is like struggling to be present, struggling to be bored because there's so many distractions and wounds that are keeping us away from being who we can be now with people around us, right? We all grow and change all the time. And that can be really hard to accept sometimes, that we're like different people, right? And meeting ourselves where we're at is so important to being present, accepting who we are, and then being with that experience. And that looks different for everyone. I went through a similar journey and now I feel fantastic. Most of the time, I feel present, I feel calm, I feel excited for life because a lot of me is going in the same direction. A lot of changes happened for me personally recently. And what's been an anchor for me is I have my logic, my emotions, my ego, all of that good stuff going in the same direction. So even if I'm struggling, I know I have my duty, I have my purpose, and I want that for you. I want you to feel that too. That's why I do the work I do. So I'm going to leave you with those thoughts today. I've been Will. You've been wonderful. Do your best. I'm proud of you for whatever you're doing. Being present is hard. Be compassionate with yourself. I'm going to be compassionate with you. Good luck. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.